Welcome back to the Long Run Project. My name's Dan, and in this video we are going to be talking about my 50-mile training plan. As I sit, I am 4 weeks out from my first 50-mile race. At this 4-week mark, I'm gonna kind of begin my taper. So I figured what better time than now to kind of go over the training. So if you are training for a half marathon, a marathon, this might not be applicable. But if you are training for a 50K or 100K or 50 mile or 100 mile, these were some of the things that I found that worked, that didn't work, and a couple of things that I'm going to change going forward. If you have any interest, please drop a comment and I can link my whole training plan. It was something that I kind of developed on my own, just to test out and see how it worked. I'd be interested in getting your feedback if anyone out there wants to give it a shot. Cool. So let's jump right into it. This plan is roughly 16 weeks. For the first 8 weeks of this training plan, I was primarily indoors due to a hand injury and weather here in New England. The rest of the time has been a combination of indoor and outdoor runs. The indoor runs have either been on a treadmill primarily, and then there have been a couple on a very small indoor track. So over the course of the 16 weeks, my starting mileage was 10 miles a week, 20 miles a week. That was really coming out of the holidays with, very minimal volume, I guess. The peak mileage for this plan, the way it's worked out for me, peak mileage for me, I'm sitting at my highest week so far at 86 miles per week. I may get that up to 100. I may not. We'll see kind of how I'm doing tomorrow. The longest run in this plan is 4 hours. That was a scheduled 4-hour indoor run, which was terrible. My longest outdoor run on this plan was 23 miles. Just to kind of give you some idea. The long runs on this run were not necessarily mileage, but based solely on time. So it's important to kind of know that. Also, the structure of this plan, every long run is a back-to-back long run. So you have one day that's at very high volume, followed by another day that's equally or just less than the volume you did the day before. That's pretty standard across ultra training plans. So, yeah. So let's get right into it. What worked, what didn't work, and what I plan to change. What has worked best for me during this training plan has been the easy pace of the run. Having an easy pace has really allowed me the room to build a lot of volume, and it's allowed me that space to build a lot of volume pretty quickly, which isn't necessarily typical. You know, obviously, if I was starting out with a lesser baseline of fitness, I would encourage really extending this plan out a little bit. But I knew, you know, at the end of last year, I wasn't in the best shape, but I was in decent shape, and knew, you know, once things kind of got going and progressed, that I would be able to really crank up the volume pretty quick. And I think the body adaptation really came back quick after the first couple of weeks, and just allowing the body to get used to it, especially with these easy runs, really helped. Another part of this plan that really kind of helped and worked was the back-to-back long run. I think it was a big piece that I missed last year in training for a 50 kilometer. I was able to get through that and did very well, but having this back-to-back long run scheduled and structured into my plan it's really made a difference. I'm able to run comfortably on tired legs. I'm able to know how my body kind of will react. It really has helped build some mental fortitude, and really just cemented the whole idea that this is going to be a long run, right? It's 50 miles. Knowing that, you know, one day you go out and do 20, and then the next day you go out and do 20 again. You know, it's really helped reassure me, but it also has helped the body adapt as well, in terms of getting going. And yeah, I don't know. The other part of this plan that's kind of helped was my adaptability. So the way the plan is set up, it's set up so that you can do it on either a treadmill or outside. That's been pretty important. We've had a couple of pretty significant winter storms over this training block, and, you know, running inside has kind of, I don't know, it's the first time that I've ever used a treadmill, and so I think having the option has been important to really help with the consistency, and that brings me to the last point, right? This training plan only worked because I was consistent. You know, if I was missing sessions or not prioritizing recovery and, you know, just cutting corners, this plan wouldn't have worked the way that it's worked out so far. You know, everything kind of seems easy on paper, but when you put it to practice, it's really up to you. You get out of it what you put into it. So the consistency over this block has been top notch. I haven't missed any sessions. I've been doing all the small things and all the small victories with the recovery, and really just trying to make sure that this training block is productive. So the things in this training plan that really didn't work for me, the The indoor only long runs in the beginning of this plan were terrible. They, I mean, running for 4 hours on a treadmill inside is not fun. And then to get up and try to do it again the next day, knowing that it's only half the time is still a challenge. It wasn't fun, and definitely kind of made me question why I was doing this, but I would highly suggest you find a way to do your long runs outside, or do them with someone, if you're doing them inside, or split the time. Start indoors and transition outdoors, run to the gym, and then hop on the treadmill, and then run home. That was probably the hardest part of this whole training plan, was trying to complete those long runs. It did provide a very controlled environment where I had access to my fuel and hydration, and I could really monitor intake and kind of know how I was feeling. So I will give it that it was good for that. It was good for the testing, because it was such a controlled environment inside. But yeah, I think I did have some issues with certain fueling, or I guess certain hydration products, not necessarily the fueling products. And, kind of figuring that out inside on a treadmill in a gym, that was helpful, because you're not 10, 12, 15 miles away from home, and you're having, stomach cramps or GI issues and needing to get back. It's at a gym, so I will say that utilizing the indoor run for testing was important, and helpful. I would also say that most of the stomach issues that I had came from product testing, which was also beneficial to kind of find out during a training run, not during a race. So yeah, the other part of this that didn't necessarily work for me, was really kind of ramping up the volume quick. Granted, I ramped up the volume from 10 miles to 100 miles over the course of, I don't know, 12 weeks, I think. But in the beginning half, my body was really fighting. I was prioritizing the recovery. I was meeting my caloric needs. I was doing everything that I could, but I was still suffering with the sleep and just not adapting as quickly as I should. And that was kind of an interesting thing. But now at this point, my body has, in the back half of the training plan, where the mileage is the highest, my body's adapted and everything has kind of fallen into line. I think that can be kind of expected with every training plan, but just something that I took away from this. So this training block is really block one of 3 blocks that I have coming this year. So what kind of changes am I planning to make for the next block? My next training block is short, but it's going to be high volume, because I go race a 100-mile race in, I think, 12 weeks after this. So the plan is to add a couple more high intensity sessions per week, you know, whether that be some morning intervals or maybe definitely some more hill work. We'll kind of figure that out and schedule that in, but hi. I'm going to add some variation to my long runs. I have my long runs pretty structured, and what I mean by that is I have them mapped out so I can hit, you know, water stops, or know that this portion of trail isn't going to be crowded, or know that I need to avoid this area from doing this run on this day. But what I need to work in is I need to work in some variation. So, you know, during my long runs, I'll probably be adding some, you know, some, I don't want to say pace specific or like race pace specific blocks. But I think that's probably what I'm going to do. And probably just add that kind of variation to the training. Something else that I need to work on, it's going to be kind of dialing in my daily nutrition and figuring out how to meet the caloric needs, what I can do, you know, kind of pre and post, what I need to do to get better sleep. The dog is fighting a hedgehog toy. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, so with that, I'm gonna close this clip out and open another one. So that's my kind of overview and review of my training plan, right? On paper, you know, on paper and in a video, it's easy, right? It all makes sense. It's all logical, you know. When it comes to actually doing it, that's a whole other animal. You know, so show up, be consistent, put in the work, and you'll get it done. So stay tuned over the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna be dropping a couple videos. I don't know kind of the order that I'm gonna go in, but one's gonna be recovery, one's gonna be some of the fueling and hydration products that I use. Another one's gonna be kind of a race day prep and what I do to prepare. The dog is going crazy, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But if you're training for anything, drop the name of the race in the comments. I'd love to kind of check it out and see what everybody else is doing. Follow along too, because 4 weeks from now, I'm going to be sitting here doing an aftermath kind of review of this race. So take it easy, everybody. Thank you.